Sometime in the mid-1800s, Dr. Charles Finney woke to a desperate knock at his door in the dead of night. A frantic woman stood on his porch, clutching her 6-year-old daughter. The girl's appendix was on the verge of rupturing. Finney rushed her to his makeshift basement operating room. In his haste, he miscalculated the anesthetic. The child, Sally, woke up as he cut into her, dying in agony on his table. For decades, this grim tale has circulated as the definitive origin story for the STORIE house in Atchison, Kansas. We pass this story down because it immediately disarms us. A terrified, suffering child evokes an overwhelming, instinctual human response to comfort and protect. In the early 1990s, Tony and Deborah Pickman moved into the home with their newborn son. At first, they noticed minor oddities. Lights dimmed for no reason. Teddy bears in the nursery were found neatly arranged in circles on the floor. If you dig into the historical records, you will find that Dr. Finney and his family did own this property, but you won't find a single document, birth certificate, or medical record suggesting he ever treated or lost a little girl named Sally. The tragic origin story anchoring the entire legend is entirely fictional, which presents a deeply unsettling problem. If there was never a 6-year-old girl who died in that basement, something else was sitting in the dark nursery, rearranging the baby stuffed animals. Paranormal investigators sometimes encounter a Trojan horse spirit. This entity projects a harmless exterior to bypass our psychological defenses. In the Sally house, this disguise was calibrated to exploit Deborah Pickman's maternal instincts, mimicking a lost, frightened child seeking protection. When visiting psychics and television crews toured the home, they claimed they could clearly see the spirit of a little girl. This outside validation cemented Deborah's belief that they shared their home with a wandering orphan. She felt a strong urge to nurture the spirit. The phantom child functioned as an active camouflage mechanism, highly effective at blinding Deborah to the actual threat occupying her home. While Deborah nurtured an illusion, her husband Tony experienced a completely different, severely violent reality. Unexplained fires broke out around him, burning objects from the inside out. Bleeding scratches materialized on his body, some appearing right as cameras rolled. The entity's mask began to slip when Tony was alone. He would follow what looked exactly like his wife down the hall, only for the apparition to vanish. Later, he woke to see an old woman dressed in black floating toward his bed, her hands reaching out to choke him. The illusion completely shattered when the little girl appeared at the foot of his bed, let out a deep, terrifying growl, and rapidly mutated into a hunched 4-legged creature dripping with melting flesh. The haunting relied on a calculated strategy of isolation. By weaponizing Deborah's belief in an innocent child, the entity ensured Tony was completely unsupported as he endured a targeted, demonic siege. The physical attacks were only a precursor to a complete psychological subversion. The haunting moved out of the hallways and directly into the architecture of Tony's mind. When Tony was inside the house, a dark anger overtook him. He began experiencing vivid, invasive impulses, including graphic visions of taking a butcher knife and slitting his wife's throat when she returned from work. This mental invasion reached a terrifying peak when Tony woke up consumed by hateful thoughts, grabbed a knife, and blacked out. Hours later, he returned to find the family cat stabbed and pinned to the kitchen counter, with absolutely no memory of doing it. The threat culminated weeks later when an unseen force violently threw Tony into the staircase banister, snapping the wooden rungs. The physical impact finally broke Deborah's illusion, and the family fled the property. The Sally house demonstrated a capacity to overwrite a person's moral compass, proving far more dangerous than the typical poltergeist activity of moved objects and mysterious scratches. Years after the Pickmans left, a solitary woman moved in. She heavily damaged the property and was eventually evicted by the landlord. When the owner went in to inspect the damage, he found the basement walls covered in strange names and markings, with a large pentagram painted directly onto the floor. There was no innocent spirit wandering the halls. The house was acting as a focal point for dark, ritualistic practices. The Pickmans' ordeal suggests that empathy can be weaponized. By manipulating the family's compassion, the entity gained a level of access that physical force never could. If you actively search the shadows for a tragic spirit to comfort, you might just be holding the door open for a monster.